mother loss is really even give people, because there was loss of life, like survivor's guilt. Like, why did
exactly.
my house not get hit? Or why is mine not as bad as my neighbor's?
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of that going on as well. And I think sometimes there's probably a lot of loss of faith, spiritual loss. Like, how could this good God do this or allow this to happen? And we know that he doesn't. And it's still really hard for people that are in that to see that many times.
Welcome to Female Voices, Life and Loss, a podcast dedicated to women from all walks of life. Whether you're navigating through loss, seeking growth, or simply looking for a place to feel understood, you've come to the right space. Each week, we provide compassionate guidance, share diverse stories, and offer practical advice to help you heal, grow, and thrive. No matter where you are on your journey, we're here to walk with you. Let's grow together. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back again. I'm Wayna Berry.
I'm Teresa Reiniger.
We are your hosts for Female Voices, Life and Loss. Thank you for joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
We are reflecting on the tornado that just kind of ripped through St. Louis. Gosh, was it at the beginning of this month or the end of last month? I can't remember.
Well, as we're recording this, it was about a month ago, I think.
Okay, about a month ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So about a month ago, so we want to just kind of take some space and time to talk about that. But first, we are going to pause for a moment of silence for the lives lost and homes uprooted in this area. So we're going to take a brief pause. And for that poetic reflection about, the storm came toward the roof from my shelter, but not the strength from my soul. I rise, soaked and shaken, but still I rise. Arthur W.B. So, Teresa, oh my gosh, where were you at when the storm happened, when the tornado hit? Did your phone go off?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it did. And I was home. Of course, I live in Illinois. So I think when the storm hit St. Louis, we're pretty far from there, from where it hit. And it was tracking. I mean, I was watching and it was tracking like it was going to go north of us. But I had no idea, of the devastation of all that had happened in St. Louis until really when the news started reporting all the devastation. We did not get hit over here. North of us did get hit. Granite City, Illinois, and south of that, they got hit. Not as bad, but still there was a lot of damage there as well. So yeah, but it was fun.
Man,
because they were predicting the bad weather. I pretty much was. I'm like, I'm staying at home. I'm not gonna be out running around.
Right. No, I was at the hospital. So me and probably about 4 or 5 other ladies were in the women's bathroom, and this is a one-stall bathroom. So
oh my goodness,
we got to know each other real organically then. But thankfully I'm in North County, so nothing happened there. But a lot of people in the city were impacted, and so that reminded me of a school that I used to work for as a school counselor, KIPP, in the city. And so I got really, kind of nervous about the families in that area because, that's a low economic area already. And so just thinking of those people having this another layer on top of how hard life already is was like, oh my God. So it was just like unfathomable just looking, at the destruction, just like, oh my God.
Yeah. I can remember for days thinking, and I had a nephew that has a home in Clayton, and it did hit his street, and there were two homes, his being one, that didn't really have a whole lot of damage. He had a couple broken windows, I think, but that was pretty much it. They needed to board those up. But the neighbors around, a lot of down trees and things like that. But I remember my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law and other nieces trying to get to his home, and it took them hours to get to his home because of all of the detours and the closed down roads and the power lines down and whatever. And I kept thinking, I want to help, but I just really don't even know where to go, because I had already heard it takes hours and hours to weave through. I don't know that area well. And is my phone, my GPS, my phone it's not going to redirect me. And so I remember thinking, I want to help, and I can't get there, so I don't know if other people felt like that. Like, I just don't know what to do or how to help. There were some collections and stuff. So, of course, participating in that, but physically going down there to help. And I'm going to be 65. So it's like, my body might not take moving trees and all of that or whatever else needs to be done.
Right.
And,
Says the woman who's playing softball and, championships and stuff.
Volleyball. Senior volleyball. So make sure the listeners know it's senior volleyball.
Well, it was hard because the phones weren't working, because towers were down, so they weren't working like they should either. But me and my family have lived in Florida for many years, and so we would kind of experience not the tornado devastation, but we would definitely have those warnings every year, from like August to November. We could potentially deal with no power or no water for, a week or, because, we might be impacted. So we had some experience with it. But I've never been in a situation where I lost everything. Well, let me stop. That's not completely true. My family, meaning my extended family, when I said, I had the 17 people and we all lived in the same house. So the rest of them still live together, and we moved. My mom and her kids moved, but the rest of the other 13 are still together, and the house caught on fire. And so, but it caught on fire so many times. Because of, like we were saying before, when it's winter, they wouldn't pay the electric bill. They would pay the gas bill because that's the most important at the time. So then you have candles and you're lighting the fireplace or whatever, and your house goes up. So I did experience that with my grandmother and my aunts. And my grandma wouldn't leave the house, right? And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you staying in the house? The house on fire. She's like, it could just take me with it. And I was like, it's not. I said, Grandma, before the fire touch you, you're going to be dead from the smoke. like you'll get your crazy butt out this house. Like, what are we doing? But to my grandmother's point, her point was, Wayna, people treat you differently when you live with them. And she's like, if I have to live with someone else again and they treat me differently, then I would prefer to die in this house. So that was her mindset, because I asked her a lot of questions because I was very chatty my whole life. And so I would ask 1,000 questions. Yeah. And so that kind of landed on me a little different, because I guess my grandmother had lived with my auntie, and my auntie had not treated her very well.
Yeah.
I offered that it probably wasn't solely for that reason. There's some trauma there. So, it might be for other reasons, that she received that treatment, but nevertheless, she was special to me, and our relationship wasn't toxic to me. So I felt really empathetic, and I was very concerned about my grandmother's mental health with that kind of thing.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because we have seen over and over on the news, and for the listeners, if you're not in the St. Louis area, these families just they're not leaving their homes, many of them. They've been given tents or whatever they can be given, and they're just camping in their yards or whatever. So that made me think of that when you said that they don't want to leave their homes. It's really, even though there's not much there may be no roofs or whatever, they still don't want to leave their home, and they're staying in tents. And we're in the 90s, and we've been now in the 90s for a couple days. So it's like, oh my gosh, like I've been in a tent before when it's super hot. I mean, there's
it's
no cooling off a tent when it gets this hot. But it's interesting that you said that. So that makes sense to me, like, oh, they must be feeling the same, like they don't want to leave, because they don't want to go live with someone else or deal with all of that. So it's interesting that you said that.
Yeah, and I think that is a running theme for a lot of people that I've met in my life, meaning just my young 45 years on this earth, but the last maybe 10, just talking to people who have been at different stages of homelessness, whether it's couch surfing or I'm staying in this building without power or utilities. They all kind of, like you said, have that kind of, they're like, I don't want to deal with somebody else, talking to me crazy or treating me poorly, because I'm in need, basically. And my mother even did that. My mom, it was her maybe third divorce, and so she was like in my basement, and I didn't care if my mother needed to stay there for however long she needed to stay there, but to her it was just like she's reached kind of this low status. I look at where my life has taken me. I am in my daughter's basement. This is just now, mind you, I had a really nice basement. Ceilings were like 12 foot. It was a nice setup. We could have made that work, but that's kind of where it fell for her. And I didn't really, me being a young adult at that time, I didn't take it any sort of way. Like I didn't look at my mom differently. I just looked at my mom as, you're in a transition. Well, you got to have time to build. So
but with all of that, just so devastating, and they're still working on things because the finances aren't there, and many of them, from my understanding, and I don't know anyone there personally, but just from the news, one can't always believe everything that you hear on the news. I know that for sure. That's a fact.
That's valid.
But a lot without insurance, so no way to really rebuild or get their belongings back. To me, it's just so heart-wrenching, so devastating, what they're going through. And I think there's a lot, it seems like there's a lot of good has come from it. And it's hard to say that when there's such devastation, but there's just good things. I mean, I think the city and the surrounding have really band together to really support and help as best they can. And I think when they do interview the people that are there, that's what I'm hearing, that they brought us food, and they're bringing us tents, and they're bringing us, and maybe it's not in all areas, but whoever the news people are seeing, it just seems like there's been a lot of support. And I mean, you're the one that lives closer to them, and in St. Louis, I'm further away, but
I know from some friends, some colleagues. I have one that went and volunteered just to hand out lunches, handed out supplies. Another lady that, I've spoke about before on here, Brittany, she has the networking group Rich Mamas. And so they were out, everybody was kind of posting on that group, all supplies, you can come here for this need, that need, there's a Black owned beauty shop that's up the street from me called Refresh. And so businesses have been donating hair supplies and things like that, because they don't have the finances to get hair supplies and things like that. So I think people are trying to meet the need the best way we can, with us being the people kind of at the ground level, not people that are a part of making those big decisions over companies who can donate. But I've seen a lot of pouring out of a lot of people helping each other, a lot of community efforts just to help each other. Grab your stuff. How can I help you? Can I donate? I've donated. Just we need humanity to show up again, though. So it's kind of like, as a society, we got to get back to those basic human rights of supporting each other. But let's talk about just what are the hidden griefs that people experience in natural disaster.
Well, there's so many. There's so much hidden grief when it's just even the loss of their homes. The loss probably of some identity, which is attached a lot of times to the home. Like, how are we ever going to surface, like, who are we going to be after such devastation? This is always going to be with us. And so I think that's some of the hidden grief. And then just the community piece of that. Like, some of that is good, like the communities come together, but there's so much loss in what the community was before. And that's part of the identity too. Everything has shifted now. Even the streets, nothing looks the same. So just so much hidden grief. People that probably don't, their health is being jeopardized. So loss of some of their health is definitely a piece of that hidden grief.
Yeah, I almost think of it like a little bit like COVID, but not like COVID, of course, because the whole world was on a shutdown. But in the aspect of loss, I've lost my home. Maybe I've lost my independence. I've lost those titles, like you said, homeowner, and my home has disappeared and I didn't have insurance. So I've lost that home. I'm not a homeowner anymore. And now I have maybe the actual, I still have the financial responsibility of it and it's not here. I didn't see the toll, if the death toll, so I don't know what the loss of life was, but definitely resources, definitely physical space, has to be a lot of emotions that could land into the depression and anxious world, with just seeing this. This is my new normal. So just finances, support, stability.
The other thing that
the mental is going through, and like you're saying, emotional and physical health that's impacted.
And just talking about that physical and emotional health, I remember we were together when they were saying that another tornado was coming through. It was after that. And they wanted us all to go into the bathrooms of a restaurant because we were meeting and talking.
I remember that.
And there was a lady that was throwing up. And I took that as like, she was not like stomach bug, is how I took that, is like the trauma of probably experiencing the last tornado is making her physically sick. And I just was like, oh my gosh. So I don't know if that's what you thought when they said that there's a lady in there throwing up, but that's what went through my mind, is like the trauma that she must have endured the last time is now showing up again for her.
Yeah, but I was very happy at the responsiveness of the staff,
at that one.
Everyone safe. because I don't think a lot of people got the warning the first time.
Yeah.
A lot of times the phones did not go off when the biggest one, devastation hit.
Yeah.
So I was very proud that they were trying to be very intentional about keeping everybody safe. I'm an outlier. I was like, I'm going home. I'm not staying.
Yeah. They locked us in the restaurant, and so we were locked in. And I'll tell you, I did not go in the bathroom because there wasn't room for all of us in there.
I bet.
And somebody was throwing up in there, and I'm like, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there. But I just thought of her. I was like, what's that? I just thought,
help. Like, hey, let's breathe. Let's do some breathing.
I would have had to gone through a lot of people to get there. But I just felt my heart went out to her and those that were with her. She was physically sick. But I think some other loss is really even if people, because there was loss of life, like survivor's guilt. Like, why did my house not get hit? Or why is mine not as bad as my neighbor's? I'm sure there's a lot of that going on as well. And I think sometimes there's probably a lot of loss of faith, spiritual loss. Like, how could this good God do this or allow this to happen? And we know that he doesn't. And it's still really hard for people that are in that to see that many times.
Yeah, I've experienced that. Not in this particular situation where people lost their faith, but lost during those spaces where we lost our child. And it was very odd to me that the people who seem to be the most rooted, in the church, they're 8 days a week, were the one who had the biggest shake, to their faith when disasters like this happen.
Yeah.
And it's just very confusing to me because, I guess I take it literal when he says, we will have troubles, until we're no longer, on this earth. So when I see people of that had strong previously, strong faith, shaken by the simplest things, it just boggles my mind, because these are the leaders. These are the people that are supposed to help us keep the chin up and keep the faith and pray with us and return us back to the passages that help us move through this, and I found that missing deeply when big things came up.
Yeah.
Their faith was really, really shaken. And I was just like, but the Lord said, we're in a fallen world.
Yeah. So just every kind of loss that you can even think of, security, trust, that's all been shaken for sure.
Gotcha. Let's
like that. Yeah.
So how do we help them move from some of this fight or flight energy? I like to lean on the CBT. I'm always a realist. I'm always a solution person. I'm always like, what's in our control, what's not in our control, because the money is not coming out the air. So,
right.
What do I need to do? Do I need to get a bus pass for some charity to go to see if I can get my utilities back on? Or is there an agency I can go to that helps seniors fix their house back up? I'm very much like, let's spend time with what we can do.
Yeah.
But also, I'm going to ask, tell me where it hurts right now, too. So I'm going to listen to all the venting. I'm going to let you get it out. I am. Just know at the end that we're making a plan, though.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It reminds me of where my mind went is have a plan. Like, and not to discredit this anyway, but this is just where my mind went. And I'll share it. And just know that I'm not discrediting the tornado and that devastation, but my mind went. And maybe the listeners have experienced this. Like, you're at a meeting, it could where my mind went to a church meeting, and they're complaining about something that's going on, or at work, complaining. And that's all they want to do. And I'm always asking, okay, so what idea do you have? How are we going to fix this?
Mm-hmm.
And I will eventually say to them, if you don't have a solution, I don't want to hear complaints anymore.
I'll give a certain time frame for the venting.
Yeah. I agree. And so I think the same here was what I'm hearing you say is, yeah, this was devastating. And what are we going to do? Let's rally. Let me help pick you up. Let me guide you. Let me help you. But you got to walk with me to do that. I will help you. I will walk with you. I will support you and help you. So yeah, I agree.
I'm very much the kind of person though. Like I want you to get it off your chest, but I also need a solution at the end though. I need some actual steps that we're gonna do to start. Maybe it's a long process. Because we know some of our things are complicated. It takes a little longer. But let's just start the process. What is the first step forward?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that's the hardest part. They need somebody to spitball with, troubleshoot with, process with, support, all those words. What are some other ways that they can, take care of themselves? I always like to talk about, I'm not a journaler. I don't journal.
Yeah.
I yell at the phone. I do this talk text. That's my journaling.
That's journaling.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, Lord, I don't have a clue what's happening today. This is what I'm just word vomit all over. I'm like, I need help and I can't figure this out. Or sometimes I journal and it's more of a prayer. And the prayer is usually about all my complaining. Lord, this is what happened. This is where it went. This is what I tried to do. It comes together organically at the end with the gratitude. But, I first got to fuss a little bit, so get it out. Get it out with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think journaling is really good. And I would say for those that have been in the middle of this tornado, they may not even have a pen and paper. And there are ways to do that. And just speaking it, or if they still have phones, doing just what you said, that journaling still can be done. And it is important. And both of the things we just talked about is getting it out. And at some point after getting it out, going to gratitude, going to solution, going to something. And I do think when there's such massive devastation, though, that is not the first day, and it's probably not the second day that solution. Your
12th or 15th,
your mind is swirling. Just there is no there. The thoughts don't even come. You're just
logical order. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so that takes time. So just if somebody's listening, they're thinking, oh, you guys are crazy. That can't happen. And we're not saying that's immediate. That is down the road a little bit. And at some point, though, it does need to come to that. You can't stay stuck in that. And it's kind of like being stuck in grief. Like you can't stay stuck there.
It is grief, though.
A piece of it is definitely grief. You can't stay stuck in that devastation indefinitely. It's just not good for you. It's not healthy. And so I think the other things are some other self-care kind of things. Journaling is one. Gratitude. You talked about gratitude. What are other self-care things that you like? We talk about self-care a lot on the podcast. We had a whole month that we're really dove into self-care. But what, in this particular instance, what would you say is good self-care that they can do?
First, I want to say, of course, for you people that are out there, I'm so sorry you're experiencing this. Life can be gutter sometimes. But I want you to make sure you're safe first, because it's not really safe for everybody to sleep inattentive, especially when we're thinking of our elderly, compromised health. But then I just think of women and children and their safety. So that concerns me a little bit. Just making sure everybody's safe. Carving out some sort of space that can give you calm, whether it's an app that can give you calm, whether it's just taking a walk and talking to the Lord, but you got to carve out some sort of activity that can calm you down or reset you. And Teresa spoke about talking to people. Some other ways, reach out to everybody. We may, like Teresa and I are like, we don't even know where to start. So if you see people, tell them what you need. They may not be trying to be ignorant and just not asking, they might want to respect your privacy, or they may figure you would tell them, but I like to say, advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself, for your needs, whatever those are. If it's mental health, find somebody to take you for free. I've offered free services to people who are dealing with, this kind of fallout, because finances, of course, may be an issue at this time. Honoring your body. So I don't care if you need alerts on your phone. Drink, hydrate, eat, sleep. Like, you got to take care of the basic, or you're not going to be ready to fight this uphill battle that you're currently in. So you have to take care of your body's nutrition and healing as you walk through this, because you need it. You might need more than you need on any other day. And also, when we get in this productivity busy mode, you slow down, like me and Teresa said at the beginning, because maybe it's productive but not really productive, because you're not dealing with the emotions and the other side of this loss that's coming up. And I'm telling you, if you don't, it's going to come at the ugliest time. Grief will not be quiet or shushed. It will speak. So I encourage you to make some time, even like Teresa was sharing with me on another podcast, the 15 minutes a day. Whatever it is, you got to take a time and you want to think about it and be intentional, so you don't blow up at the lady at the charity place where you really need that voucher to get your needs met. So those are just some things for me.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with that. When I'm working with clients, I always encourage them to set time every day to truly grieve. Whatever time frame that is, many people, maybe 5 minutes, 15 minutes, like I shared with you, but intentionally think about what's going on with yourself. Where are you feeling pain, grief, tense, stress in your body? And be intentional of pinpointing that. And many times, I'll say, for instance, you're finding tension in your neck and your shoulders, because that's where most of us feel it the most. Sometimes in our chest, with our heart, our throat. But think about that area and really consciously think about it and take some deep breaths. If you focus on that area where there's tension and stress, and you breathe deeply thinking of that, 95% of the time, it will release that stress and that tension. And you may not be in control of anything else that's going on with water or food or your house or anything, but you are in total control of putting breath in and out of your body, and use it to your advantage. It is the best thing that you can do when you're in that fight or flight or any distress, is to just breathe deep into your belly and your chest, and breathe slowly. So that's what I would say. Breathe. Make sure you take time to breathe deep.
Yeah, the breathing for me, I guess my life is too trauma filled. Because the breathing, it just never really helps me reset. So I'm one of those people that either got to talk it out. That's my process. Either I can process it with a value person that I know is going to shoot me straight,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or kind of other grounding activities of,
Mm-hmm.
looking, kind of your thing, Teresa, get in nature, let me pay
Yeah.
attention to the colors that are outside, or what is the sky doing, kind of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what can I see? What can I touch? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I taste? To force myself to stop and slow down, kind of, they call it in therapy kind of DBT. You got to mindfully do things. So I can't, what my husband say on the other podcast, I can't be angry and be grateful at the same time. So I have to stop and choose a lane.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I am going to intentionally think about how this is landing on me right now.
Mm-hmm.
What do I really need in this moment? Do I need a hug? Do I need to cry? Do I need to shout? Or do I need rest? Do I need a nap? So like
Mm-hmm.
Teresa was saying, pay attention to your body and what your body needs. That is the biggest thing in slowing down. Just asking yourself intentionally, really, what do I need right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because they may not need anything but a hug in that moment, just
Sure.
because life is just so hard. They don't have the words to articulate how this is landing, because they don't even know. I'm still in shock. And that happens as well, just being in shock for a very, very long time. Until somebody's like, how are you feeling? You're like, wait a minute, how am I?
Yeah. Many times we have no idea how we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And you mentioned this, like even another way of grounding, and you mentioned nature and all that is, and I talk about this many times. LaWayna thinks I'm kind of crazy with some of this kind of stuff.
I just enjoy nature.
But take your shoes off and put your feet in the grass.
I don't want my feet dirty.
The earth itself has so much energy, healing power within it. There's so much energy in the soil of this earth. So put your feet in the grass.
No, I do believe.
I know you don't like the bugs and all of that, girl. But
that is me. I'm allergic to everything outside. So no, I'm not.
You are. Yeah.
But I do think there's healing power to be found in nature.
Absolutely.
When I think about the Indians and how they use the nature and the spirits to heal things, I was just like, man, we need a reset as a culture, as a world, and get back to the basics of how we and change our relationship with nature and each other. Back to some more holistic and healing kind of ways. I think we all probably experience a better life and a better relationship with our bodies. If this rat race is changed,
we would be much healthier, and that's probably a discussion on another podcast.
We don't mind talking about it.
I know, but we're kind of really, I think, talking about, that's all self-care, but we're talking about people that have lost, some of them, everything. And but I agree with you that we would be a much healthier society in all of that if we got back to more of nature. But I do think too that a lot of things are being taken, and again, only what I see on the news, taking down there, that water that you talked about, that food that you talked about. I've heard that construction companies are going down and boarding up and helping put roofs on and things like that. And I just want the listeners to know that if you're not in the St. Louis area, there is a lot of things happening to support these. I don't even know how many families, how many houses.
I don't either.
I don't know that number. But
I heard a church bought a house for a family that lost their home.
Yeah, so there's just
the sweetest story. Kind of a guy going to get food for people that he knew that had been impacted. He found like his favorite candy bar, right? So he wasn't even thinking about any of that, He was just like, I'm getting stuff for everybody, And then he was like, oh, this is my favorite one. And let's say it's a Butterfinger. I don't know. I'm just throwing some out there. And he's like, oh my God, this is my favorite thing. And I can't believe somebody donated this. That was so thoughtful of them, And then the people at the place were like, take as many as you want. We want you to, have something special like that. This is my favorite food, or this is my favorite drink, or this is my favorite thing. And she just said his whole face just kind of lit up in that moment. Somebody was intentional with their gift giving items. They weren't just buying dollar store things. They were buying name brand food and name brand supplies and things like that for those people to donate to people. So they just felt really cared for and not like hand me down kind of.
Yeah.
They felt really cared for from those people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would say probably there's so much giving happening. And I think the big holdup is to rebuild, if it can be rebuilt, and just the financial piece of that coming from the state, the government, wherever those funds can come. And there's that, all that just takes time, too long of time.
Yeah, they do, because you know how they do.
Too long of time. And we just all want it right now, though. And
yeah.
I don't know the ins and outs of that. I just feel like it takes too long for those decisions.
Well, I was kind of boots on ground with Ferguson, and I was at the command center, and I was out there handing out the stuff. Me and my son volunteered when there was the tornado that hit Ferguson, So for me, what I'm left with, though, is complete gratitude, because when I went through a tornado before, I was beat up. I was so tired. Like I had nothing left to even shelter. So I was on a couch. My son was on the other couch. I was like, I don't have any, I can't even want to go downstairs. Like, I'm just so beat up. And thankfully he spared me. You know what I'm saying? But there's so many, there's so many ways things could have went. And I just I'm so grateful for the people whose hearts and passion are for the community, who show up for the community. And even though they're tired, broke, everything else, they're like, I gotta go because this person next to me has experienced this egregious loss, and I just got to show up for them.
I think St. Louis has done overall a really good job for showing up for people, and I'm not down there, but just everything that I've heard, and I do get out and about a lot, and
she's in these streets.
working. But so I think St. Louis has shown up. All parts of St. Louis. I mean, there were collections as far out as St. Charles County. They weren't even affected, but they were supporting the city and people in the city, which is amazing. People in Illinois were not impacted like St. Louis, and they were supporting. So I think the whole surrounding area has really come together, which is really nice. I hope that we as an area, the St. Louis area, can continue to come together for each other in many other ways as well. So
I hear you.
So
So in closing,
I have, like LaWayna opened with a little, was it a poem that you read? Is that what it was? I have something to share with you too, but before I do that, I want to do the same thing that LaWayna did, is let's just take a couple seconds here in silence to really be grateful for what we have and to be mindful of those that have experienced such devastation, whether in St. Louis or all across really the country and the world. So let's take just a couple seconds here. Even if the sky is clear, your heart may still feel stormy. That's okay. Recovery isn't linear. Grief after disaster is real, valid, and deserves care. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us today. If you're listening and you need support in some way, reach out. We would love to support and help you. Until next week. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Female Voices Life and Loss. We hope today's conversation brought you comfort, insight, and a sense of community. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with others who might need it. Stay connected, stay resilient, and until next time, keep growing and healing.